Hi, Pioneers. Today we're going to start the last unit of the school year, and this unit is on volume. So we're going to be exploring how to find the volume of different objects. Today we're going to start with finding the volume of rectangular prisms. Okay, so to find the volume of a rectangular prism, we need three different measurements. We need the rectangular prism length, width, and height. Now to find the volume, we simply use a formula. And the volume is found by using the formula volume equals length times width times height, which is often just shortened to V equals L times W times H. Okay, so as long as we have those three units of measurement, we're simply going to be multiplying those three numbers together. So here I have a rectangular prism. I showed you that the length down here is in blue. It's equal to 4 units. The width is over here in purple. It's equal to 2 units. And the height is over here in green, which is equal to 2 units. So if we wanted to find the volume of this rectangular prism, we would simply just multiply 4 times 2 times 2, and that would give us our volume. So let's look at some examples. Here I have two different rectangular prisms. So we're going to start with this cube up here. So here we're going to identify what the length, the width, and the height is typically, and on today's assignment, I will give you the length times width times height, and you'll simply just have to multiply the three numbers together. But the length is over here with the purple arrow, and we simply just have to count how many boxes we see because that's going to give us the length. So it says up here, each cube, which is these little boxes, each cube measures 1 inch on each side. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that tells me that this length here is equal to 4 inches. So I'm simply going to drag and drop this 4 inches right here. Now I'm going to look for the width. The width is right here in green. I simply got to count the boxes, 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 boxes, which means that the width is going to be 3 inches. Okay, then we have the height, which is over here in orange, So I'm simply going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 boxes representing the height. So that means that the height of this rectangular prism is 5 inches. Okay, now we got to use this information to find the volume. So I wrote the volume formula up here. And guys, all we have to do is take the length, the width, and the height and plug it into this formula. So for the equation, I'm simply going to plug in those numbers. So the first number I'm going to plug in is the length. Well, I just wrote L here. I'm going to plug in the number that represents the length. The length is equal to 4. So instead of writing L now, I'm going to plug in 4. I'm going to plug in my multiplication sign. Now the next letter in my formula is the width. I know what the width is, it's 3. So instead of writing W, I'm now going to plug in 3. Okay, I'm going to bring down my multiplication sign. And now last but not least, I'm going to plug in my H, which is the height. Well, the height is equal to 5, so I'm going to plug in 5. Okay, so here's my equation. Volume equals 4 times 3 times 5. Now, in order to find my volume, I simply have to multiply those three numbers together, and we can do that in one shot. Okay, so we just got to do 4 times 3 times 5, which gives us 60. So that tells us that the volume is 60. But 60 what? Remember, we need a unit of measurement. Well, since all of our measurements are in inches, our unit of measurement is definitely going to be in inches. But since it's volume, we call these cubic inches. Okay, and the reason why it's cubic inches is because there are 3 inches. Okay, now let's look at this rectangular prism down here. Again, it says each cube measures 1 now centimeter on each side. So I'm first going to identify my length by simply counting the amount of boxes I have here shown right above this purple arrow, which obviously represents my length. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means that my length is 7 centimeters. Okay, my width, I have 3 boxes here, so that means my width is 3 centimeters. And my height, I have 1, 2, which means that my height is going to be 2 centimeters. Okay, now I got to use this information to find my volume. So I'm first going to take all these numbers and plug them into my formula. That's step 1. Step 2 is to multiply them all together. So instead of writing L, I'm going to write in my measurement for L, which is 7. Now, instead of writing W, I'm going to write my measurement for W, which is 3. Notice how I'm bringing down my multiplication signs as well. And instead of writing H, I'm going to put in my measurement for H, which is 2. Okay, so now in order to find my volume, I simply need to multiply those three numbers together. So I need to multiply 7 times 3 times 2, which gives me 42. So my volume is going to be 42 cubic centimeters, which I'm just going to abbreviate as CM. All right, guys, so all we're doing is multiplying three numbers together. All right, let's look at some more examples. Here, you do not have to determine the length, the width, and the height. I gave them to you. Okay, so all we have to do is plug in these numbers into this formula. So my length is right here, which is 3 centimeters. Bring down my multiplication sign. My width is going to be 5, and my height is going to be 12. Now, if you plug these numbers in a different order, like let's say you plugged in 12 times 5 times 3, we will get the same answer because remember, multiplication is a commutative operation. So it doesn't matter the order which the numbers are in, we'll still get the same number. But we should be able to identify what number exactly represents the length, what number exactly represents the width, and what number represents the height, which is why I put these problems up here to help you do that. But again, if you change the order, we will get the same answer. Okay, so now in order to find my volume, I simply need to multiply 3 times 5 times 12, which will give me 180. Remember, we need a unit of measurement. Here we're looking at centimeters. So the volume of this rectangular prism is going to be 180 cubic centimeters. Okay, let's look at another one. Here I have another rectangular prism. I'm going to plug in my numbers. My length is 7. Bring down my multiplication sign. My width is also 7. And my height is just 1. Excuse me. Okay, so now in order to find my volume, I simply need to multiply 7 times 7 times 1, which is going to give me 49. Okay, the unit of measurement here is kilometers. So the volume of this rectangular prism is going to be 49 cubic kilometers. All right, do a couple more. Got 2 more rectangular prisms. Here, I again gave you the length, the width, and the height. So all we got to do is take these numbers and multiply them together. Plug them into this formula. So the length is going to be 4. The width is also going to be 4. And the height is going to be 6. So in order to find my volume, I simply need to multiply these three numbers together. So I have to multiply 4 times 4 times 6, which gives me 96. And we're talking about centimeters here, so the volume of this rectangular prism is going to be 96 cubic centimeters. All right, last but not least, we have another rectangular prism. So my length is going to be 30. My width is going to be 7, and my height is going to be 6. So in order to find my volume, I need to multiply 30 times 7 times 6, which gives me 1,260. The unit of measurement shown in this picture is inches, but since we found the volume, this is going to be 1,260 cubic inches. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, so again, just to summarize, in order to find the volume of a rectangular prism, all you have to do is multiply together the length, the width, and the height. You are now going to complete a Google form on finding the volume. I gave you the three measurements, the length, the width, and the height, guys. All you got to do is multiply those numbers together and pick the right answer choice. All right, guys, but as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.